Today we're going to be looking at what Expo is, what are its pros and cons, and should you be using it in 2021? Get your brains ready for some knowledge. Hello devs, welcome back. This is Akash from Fire App Dev. If you're new here, I teach you mobile dev newbies how to code full stack apps quickly using React Native and Firebase. If that is something you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Now without further ado, let's get started with looking into what Expo is. Expo is a framework for React Native that's going to make your life as a mobile developer a lot easier. It provides you tools that help you develop code and deploy code without having to worry about any of the native parts like Android or iOS code. So you don't have to worry about Java, you don't have to worry about Swift. You can code everything in plain JavaScript and it's going to look great on Android and iOS. This even allows Windows developers to develop iOS apps, so it is super convenient. And Expo is also supported by the React Native official documentation. You can find it on there. I put a little link to that down below in case you want to check it out and get started. But let's take a look at some of the helpful features Expo offers you. As I already mentioned, Expo allows you to develop iOS apps without access to a MacBook. This means you can code your app, try it out and test it on an Android device, emulator, or the web, and when it comes time to build the iOS app, Expo offers its own servers to make that process easy for you. So you Windows users, we Windows users, do not have to be barred from creating iOS apps anymore. Yeah, take that, Apple. Other than that, although I said Expo apps look the same on Android and iOS, parts of it are still going to be a little different to give Android apps that native Android feel and iOS apps that native iPhone feels. Apps are going to look like they're supposed to look on their respective devices. You're also going to get fast reload, which you already get in React Native, but Expo also offers its own tooling to make debugging and logging a lot easier. With Expo, you also get OTA deployment, which means over-the-air deployment. This means you don't have to wait a few days to weeks for Apple or Google Play to review your app each time you submit. Instead, you could push code and it's going to be in the hands of all your users within minutes. This is honestly one of my favorite features with Expo because it is such a pain to deal with Apple or Google Play. And with all that ice cream, we also get a little cherry on the top because Expo has fantastic documentation. Any issues you run into, you're either going to find it on their documentation in fact, or they're really helpful on their forums and their GitHub issues. So really amazing community built around Expo as well. Now, what are some trade-offs you have to make when using Expo as opposed to React Native CLI? Well, with Expo, like I said before, you don't have access to any native code, which makes it great for developing quick apps because you don't have to worry about native code. But when you want your app to have specific native libraries or code that interact with, say, Bluetooth or background tasks for push notifications or Firebase or anything really device specific, it can get pretty tough with Expo. Now, Expo has done a great job of adding their own library so you can get around a few of these issues. But like I mentioned, things like Bluetooth, WebRTC, in-app purchases, background push notification features, and native Firebase libraries are still not supported with Expo. If you already started your project with Expo but realize that you need new native features, well, Expo allows you to eject your app into their bare workflow and you get back any access to native features that you want. But trust me, this is not worth it. If you think you're going to need native features, I highly recommend planning ahead and just starting with the React Native CLI because ejecting with Expo is a gigantic pain in the you-know-what. So I do not recommend that at all. But again, if you already started with Expo and you have no other options, then this is a possibility. It's just going to be a lot of headache. Lastly, let's discuss whether you should be using Expo or React Native CLI for your project or business. But before we get to that, if this video provided you with any value, go ahead and tap that like button down below. No need to smash it, demolish it, or do anything crazy. Just give it a little tap and That'll mean a lot. Thank you. Now, should you use Expo for your app? It highly depends. If you are new to React Native and you're just making a few projects to learn for fun, I highly suggest starting with Expo. You're going to avoid all the extra work that has to do with dealing with native code. No linking native libraries, none of that. Just plain old Expo. It's going to keep it really easy for you so you can learn React Native quickly. Now, if you're a more experienced React Native user and are working on a bigger app, well, I highly recommend you sit down and design the app beforehand. Figure out if you're going to need to change any native code or use any native APIs. Really sit down and think about this because, like I mentioned, ejecting in the future is going to be a pain. And if you designed it, realize you don't need any native libraries, then go ahead and use Expo. Expo is great. It's going to make your life pretty easy. If not, I suggest go with the React Native CLI. Again, nothing wrong with using the CLI. It's still going to be pretty easy to get started coding. It might just get a little bit dicey when you add those native APIs. Now, if you're a Windows user like me and don't have access to a MacBook, Expo might be a great option here too. Really figure out whether you need those extra native libraries or not. If you can go with Expo, I suggest going with Expo. But like I said, if you need access to Bluetooth, geolocation, certain background tasks with push notifications, or anything native or device specific, do not go with Expo. Just start with the React Native CLI. Trust me, you will save yourself a lot of headache. That is it for this video. I hope you have a good understanding of what Expo is and how you can use it now. And again, I highly recommend it for newbies just starting off. And if you're not a newbie, plan ahead. I'll see you all in the next video.